What's up everyone? In this video I want to discuss the power of natural genetic talent. So if you look at the top of the top of the top, the most successful in certain fields, whether it's music, chess, or business, they were genetically skilled at this. They were deeply interested and really good at this from an early age. If you look at Taylor Swift in music, for instance, she was writing songs on tissues when she was in middle school, high school. She was begging her parents every day, complaining, crying for her parents to move to Nashville, and they eventually did. Miley Cyrus, very similar thing. When she was very, very young, she was begging her parents and constantly sending in audition tapes to Disney. If you go to Warren Buffett, this guy was reading stock market books from a very, very early age. And I'm talking, he read every book in his public library on stock investing before he was like 13 or 11. And that is very eerie because most people don't do that, right? Most people aren't like these crazy people. If you look at the top chess masters of all time, they do ridiculous stuff in their head. They can literally see 30, 40 steps within, a few seconds, minutes of a game. And this is not natural or ordinary human cognitive behavior. They have a tremendous genius. If you study Warren Buffett, this guy's a really good businessman. I mean, this guy, his mind is wired for business. And he literally can do all these things that a normal person couldn't possibly do for business. Like, he just has that capability. So then does the question mean that we should just give up on anything because we aren't born with that ability? Should we just call it quits? Is that what we should do? And my personal answer, my belief is no. Despite this, yes, there is luck and chance and skill involved. Of course. If you look at these guys, you can obviously see that a number of things aligned at that time and place. And that's kind of just how natural selection in evolution works. You have specific traits that, given the time period and era and the current environment, they're just very much suited to your gifts. That's pretty much how it works, and that's why you survive while others fail. You pass on your genes, your children are more like you, and despite that, there's still tremendous variation every generation, although your children are more like you, in case the environment changes again. You see all these people, if they were born 200, 300 years ago, things wouldn't have aligned up as well. Maybe Bill Gates, very similarly, would have probably just been a blacksmith. Warren Buffett, if he was born 500 years ago, there was no capital system for him. He probably would have just been like a fairly happy but, modestly paid bookkeeper or something else. So keep those things in mind. I would say if Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift was born 100 years ago, similar thing. Was the music industry in a time and place? Was the TV networks in a time and place that allowed for their gifts to shine? I don't know if it would have. It would have been either silent films at the time, black and white films, or no films at all. So you have to keep those things in mind. There is a lot of luck aligning with time, opportunity, the fact that they were born with the resources available to nurture their gifts from a very young age. Those things have all been emphasized in books like Outliers that really show that a lot of things do align. Luck does play a part. Having said that, I've gone on this huge spiel for all that. Despite that, I definitely think that this is not something to just give up. In fact, those who think that it's all about those things really are shooting them in the foot. And arguably, those who don't get ahead because now you have less competition because some people have already, put themselves out of the competition because they just think that they can't do anything because they don't have that genetic talent. There's multiple elements of success that you can do to increase your chances if you don't have those genetic gifts. And even if you do have them, your success is not guaranteed. Now, of course, my personal definition of success doesn't have to do with just money. It has to do with happiness, fulfillment, and could mean not that much money. However, for the purposes of this video, success means getting to a specifically highly valued, highly paid job that you love doing and being the best at the world. So, continuing with that definition of success, why does someone who is not that successful become this way, even if he has all this genetic talent and skill? Well, let's just look at the obvious, the easy fundamentals. I think there's a lot of components to constantly increasing your success on a daily basis. In fact, that's the basis for all the content on my YouTube channel. However, let's just look at a few foundational things: hard work and work ethic. You know, you can easily fall behind if you don't have that work ethic there. Even if you work a standard 8-hour per day work day, this guy has such a work ethic that he will outwork you and get ahead by doing so. So you can imagine someone who's lazy or inherited his skills and wasn't taught the right work ethic by his parents, or maybe he just never developed it, he would not succeed. Another very interesting example is a story in the book The Outliers. This was a guy who apparently has the highest IQ on the planet, and there's documentaries I watched on him on YouTube. And basically this guy had all the talent and all the skill in the world, but long story short, he was born in a place where his teachers and the school system didn't value that. So he was bullied, his parents abused him, and at the ripe old age of 22-ish, he kind of just threw his hands up in the world and completely gave up. He tried all these things to go to school, but they just weren't willing to give him a chance. Is it really his fault? Arguably not. But what I found is another really critical, important trait to success is people who have stopped blaming others. You know, a lot of these people who are really successful, they have removed this victim mentality. Even when they don't have the right circumstances, the right education and so forth, which is a part of it, I'm not going to lie, they don't give up. And they say, you know what, I wasn't given that education, I wasn't this or that, but I'm going to stop blaming my family, others, and all these other things, and I am going to make it work, and I'm not going to give up. Perseverance is also huge. So these people would say stuff rather than, oh, I can't do it. They would say, how can I do this? How can I succeed? I'm just glad I was born in the US, where there's so much opportunity. And those people like John Paul DeJorio, Chris Gardner, they never gave up. Not at 22, not ever. And they found ways to make it work and eventually became huge successes, homeless to billionaire. And when you watch Chris Langan, his videos and his story, it seems like he just got very bitter and angry and blamed the world for his circumstance. And he just gave up. And he had all these excuses and so forth. And I think he's kind of kept that with him this entire time. And honestly, you know, the best time to start was maybe 10 years ago, but the next best time is right now. So I think as long as you're still alive, you still have a chance of changing your ways. And regrettably, this is something that has held him back for whatever reason. So I think, long story short, in conclusion, that there's multiple elements of success that you can use to increase your chances every single day versus someone who just stagnates. I talk about these all the time on my YouTube channel. Things like the fact that you show up and you network and meet new people. Let's look at the guy who just gives up and sits at home all day versus the guy who goes out and meets people. Every day he goes to an event where he knows there's successful people there. And each day he's friendly and giving, and he forms relationships. And most of the time it doesn't lead anywhere. But each time he goes, he increases his chances from 0 compared to the guy sitting at home versus 1%. And there's all sorts of things you can do to succeed on top of what you're doing now. So keep those things in mind and realize that there are multiple elements of success. And Warren Buffett, he says that IQ is not the only thing necessary. He says in a lot of his speeches he gives to business students, if you have a certain level of IQ, you can give away the rest, because what's more important and what's needed is not more IQ or high levels of IQ. He literally says that everyone at the business school could do what he did. They all had enough IQ, but the other things like emotional intelligence and being able to precisely control your emotions was more important. So keep those things in check, and I think that's very interesting. My recommended reads are, of course, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, but on top of Outliers, I suggest the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, Emotional Intelligence, and Emotional Intelligence 2.0. All these books can be linked below, and they will change how you think about the world. So I hope you enjoyed. Of course, I can go very deep into this, but I have in previous videos. So look to all those to increase your chances of success. Thanks so much for watching.